I'm in the Piazza Navona in Rome. It's probably the most iconic of Roman squares, Roman piazza. If you look around, you notice that the shape of this piazza is very unique, and that's because 2,000 years ago, this square actually was a stadium. It was like a racetrack. It was called the Stadium of Domitian, and all of the buildings that you see around the square today rest on the foundations of that stadium. But I want to focus on something that's kind of an interesting urban legend here. This fountain here that sits right in the center of the piazza was created by the Baroque master Bernini in the 1600s. And at the time that he was working on this fountain, his arch rival, a man called Borromini, an architect, was working on this church just opposite. So you could see how very close the two are to each other. Bernini was kind of like a very outgoing personality, the life of the party, very, very happy-go-lucky guy. Whereas Borromini was what we might call a manic depressive. He was a very, very intense, sort of deep, dark soul. So the two of them did not like each other. Their personalities clashed, and they were forced to work at the same time in this very kind of tight space here. And so urban legend, let's say, has it that each of them showed their disdain for the other in their works. So for example, here Bernini, one of these personifications of the rivers, it's because it's a four-river fountain, each corner has a personification of a river. So the ones that are facing opposite the church here of St. Agnes are sort of looking away or holding up his hand. Here, this guy with his hand holding up is like to hold up the building. The other one over there is looking away from the monstrosity that he considered the church to be. Well, Borromini was not to be outdone himself. And so what he did in his facade here was, at the top here, you can see that little statue, and that's the statue of St. Agnes. Now, St. Agnes normally should be looking down into the square at the congregation, at the people coming into her church. But no, she is not looking down. She's looking away from the square, as if to say, I don't want to look at that horrible fountain that's down below. So she's looking down to the other side of the square. It's a little bit of tit for tat in the Baroque period when these two masterpieces were created.